Hi, this is a short video giving some advice for writing your research questions for the research essay for this course. Your research essay is a formal composition based on an investigation of other writers' ideas about a topic. It's more than a summarized version of what others have said or written. So you want to be synthesizing information you gained from your research sources and including your analysis of that information. Before you dive into researching, you want to set your goal. This is based on your interests and what you want to learn about the topic you've selected. A good strategy is to devise your research plan early. This can involve picking keywords that are the central ideas you want to explore, and also coming up with a few research questions that you want to find answers to. For many papers, including this one, your thesis statement might be your answer to your research questions. But keep in mind, you may decide to change your research questions and shift your focus if you come across a more interesting idea. You're not married to your original topic, and you might rethink or adjust your topic further. So come up with a plan, but also be flexible to changing your focus. The key thing to keep in mind is before you start searching, you really want to have a solid plan. This keeps you focused and it helps you not go down the research rabbit hole. So choosing those questions helps you keep your goal in mind. So as you're reading and coming across sources, you don't get lost in the research. You don't invest a bunch of time reading things that are not relevant to your topic. If you have a lot of curiosity about your topic, it can be really tempting to read everything you find, even if it's not that connected. So don't try to read every single published source that's related to your topic. Think about the sources that are very connected to your topic, not just tangentially. And for some of you who find something interesting and you might be tempted to read it, a strategy to not go down the research rabbit hole is to just save those links for sources that you might want to read later. Save them all. Save them in a Google Doc, email them to yourself, and give yourself permission to keep your focus really narrowed and stay on track. So those things that look interesting but you know are not going to make it into your essay, just don't read them, skip them, focus on finding those sources that are really connected to your topic. So I want to give an example. Let's say that I have chosen the topic of homelessness in the United States. What I want to decide is that really narrow enough to cover in 6.5 to 9 pages? So a pretty short essay. So if it's not narrow enough, you want to go ahead and use what you already know as research strategies to try to narrow it down. So I might start with something like Wikipedia, and I might just search homelessness in the US. And when I go on Wikipedia's page, I'm just going to open here, what I'll see is that the page is really going to give a bunch of different information, backgrounds, definitions, efforts to aid, effects of homelessness, and different statistics for demographics. This is just a good place to get started for thinking about what are the key words or key ideas or key subtopics that I might want to write about. So, for instance, I might decide that I want to focus on a particular demographic, like youth homelessness or college youth homelessness. So if I decide to focus on foster youth, then all my research questions would be related to that. I might ask questions like, how can we reduce homelessness for foster youth? What are the reasons that so many foster youth end up homeless? And then I might just find some data as good background. What percentage of foster youth experience homelessness? Or, another way to narrow that down is I might focus on analyzing the cause of an issue, or I might focus on the solution. So in this case, we've got housing first as a solution that a lot of people are advocating for. This is where you put someone in permanent supportive housing before you ask them to be sober. First house them and then find them employment and then help people become sober. Or you might focus on some of the causes. So let's say that I'm researching around and I'm narrowing it, and I really am curious about housing costs and how that's tied to homelessness. So then I can start focusing in on that more narrow topic. There's an article from The Guardian Cinderella's homeless, Ariel can't afford to live on land, Disney under fire for their pay. So most LA workers can't cover their basic needs, and recently it's been found that 1 in 10 Disneyland employees are unhoused. So there's just one way to narrow it. But please keep in mind that Wikipedia is just a jumping off point. It's just a way to see all the subtopics that are connected to your larger topic and to narrow it down. So you might have heard that some instructors don't like Wikipedia. There's various reasons for this. Some people say it's not the first source. My personal reason why I don't like Wikipedia is that it really just is your first step sometimes when you're getting oriented to a new topic. So when you cite Wikipedia, for me as an instructor, it makes me feel like you only did that first step of the research. You stopped at the very beginning. So Wikipedia, it's so easy to find the sources. They're all linked, and you can just click on those sources and read the more detailed content, the more in-depth content, which is a lot richer. So don't cite Wikipedia in your research essay. It makes you appear a little bit lazy as a researcher, but Wikipedia does still have value. So when you're writing your research questions, and you're doing more than just summarizing what others have said or written, you want to pick research questions that require some analysis. In other words, all of your research questions shouldn't be something you can answer with just a fact. Your research essay is going to present your analysis of the issue. In other words, it's your opinion, your reasoned academic opinion supported by evidence from research. So for me as an English teacher, your analysis is what I'm most interested in. How are you synthesizing the information you found? How are you constructing your argument? What choices are you making about how you use evidence to support your analysis? I've read many, many papers on the same topic, but for me it never gets boring because I get to read various ways of looking at the same issue, and I get to see how you're thinking through your analysis and how you're using evidence. So when you're writing your research questions, you might have some that are just facts that provide the background information. So for instance, if I'm writing about homelessness in California and I want to focus on San Francisco, a couple questions might be how many homeless people are in California, and I can answer that with just a fact. I might want to know what percentage of homeless people in San Francisco are employed, are currently working and still living on the streets. And then that answer is just a fact again, 13%. So then I might start asking more analytical questions where people might have different answers, different ways of analyzing the situation. So how is the cost of rent contributing to homelessness? It's more of an analysis question. Why are residents of LA and San Francisco and other cities opposed to tiny homes as a solution? That's more analysis. Is safe parking a better solution than other alternatives? People might disagree about that answer. So then that's where my reasoned academic opinion comes in. Should rent be controlled in some communities to help with homelessness? Again, a question that's more analytical. So you want to have a balance of fact and analysis in your research questions. Also, all your research questions should be connected. If I look at these research questions, they all seem to belong in the same essay, so they all have the same focus. So you want to keep that in mind when you're writing your research questions. You might have heard people say that research is a cyclical process, and by that what they mean is that you're going to be searching, evaluating your sources, writing, and in most cases, after you've written a bit, you might be deciding if you have enough information and starting that process again, where you decide what's your research plan in terms of what information you're missing, and then you come up with search terms, and then you search again, and then you evaluate the sources again. So the process is really dynamic and cyclical. Another thing that people often mean when they say that it's a process is you may end up going in a direction that you didn't originally envision. So for the next activity, you're going to be writing 6 research questions and submitting them. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.